Hi, Martin here, and thank you for joining me for this week's project video. I hope you're well and you've had amazing creative weekends and weeks in your workshops. Now, on the lathe today, I've got a piece of 10x3 rippled sycamore, and I thought what I'd do is a pedestal bowl, a little bit like the ones you see made out of burr, but I'm going to really heavily colour it and possibly put some scalloping or mess up the edges a little bit. You'll see. I've kind of got it worked out in my head, but not entirely. I'm going to turn it down so it's kind of that shape on the inside and the outside, and then put a pedestal base on it so it raises the whole bowl up off the table. Everything's locked in position, and we'll start with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge to get it round. And hopefully you'll be able to see now how that ripple's beginning to come through. I think this piece is going to be really quite spectacular when it's done. Now it's stopped, I want to put on a tenon. So when I turn the base, I can turn a hole in the base for the tenon to sit into, which means I don't have to turn it off. And just start to make the tenon. Now I need to start shaping the underside of it, and it needs to look kind of like a stretched, fluid M shape. You'll see when I get to it. I can see that now works. It looks a bit like a hat. Sand that down, and then I can start to apply some colour. So I'm going to use my normal. I'll use my normal sanding regime, which is 120, 180, 240, 400. And just to save a bit of time, I'm going to use the drill. So that's the outside of the piece done. I was going to put some colour on it, but I've decided now I'm going to leave it natural and bring it up by using a couple of coats of oil before I put the final finishes on tomorrow. So I'm using a drying oil. This one is Hampshire Sheen's Food Safe Danish oil. It's a lovely soft oil, if you can call an oil soft. It's got great penetration, and it really highlights the grain and the figure in the wood. I think you can see that there. Before leaving it until tomorrow, where I can put the final finishes on it. So it's not tomorrow at all. I'm too excited to do this. So I've just reversed it in the chuck, and now I can start to shape the inside of the piece and see that gorgeous grain and figure that's beginning to show. And I want the bowl to be quite thin, but not so thin that the colour I put on seeps through into the back. Otherwise it's going to create all sorts of problems. So there's the inside turned. I'm happy with that. The walls are a decent thickness all the way round. Now I'm going to sand it down to 400 and then we can start looking at colour. So there's the outside of the piece sanded down to 400. And now it's ready to have some colour put onto it. And I'm not going to do too many colours. I think I'll just do 3. I'm going to do a background of earth. Now, somebody on Facebook used earth as the background colour, but I can't remember who it was. But if it was you, thank you. So I'm going to put some earth down as the background colour. Now, I haven't worried about the edge because I want to cut some of that edge away. Now, this is actually coming out a little bit on the light side. It's a little bit too bright for what I have in mind for the rest of the piece. So I'll put this coat on and then I'll darken it up a little bit with a touch of black. So I'm going to put 2 squirts of the earth colour on and 1 squirt and a little bit of the black, which will give a very dark brown. I hope you can see that. That's that. Now I'm going to sand it back. I'm going to dry it off first. Now I'm going to go back to 240 grit and sand quite a lot of that off, just to leave these really lovely looking stripes. I think you, or at least I hope you can see them. So let's sand that back. Now we're sanded down to 400. I'm going to use a mixture of flame, nice bright orange, and honey to really bring out the stripes on this piece. So just the 3 colours, I think, for the moment: the earth, the flame, and the honey. And I want kind of a tiger stripe effect. So I'm going to start with the honey.
Who am I to say what you should want and what you should need?
A little bit of the flame as well.
Who am I to say for what your heart should believe? No, no. I can only tell you about me, so listen now. The night falls down, a new day breaks. The world goes round in its tracks again. While I wait for a bigger
The 400 grit pad to sand back some of these stripy areas, just a little bit. And then go back to my honey colour and apply the last layer of colour, or rather the second to last layer of colour, over the area, or over the areas that I've just sanded back. And then do it again.
new day breaks. The world goes round in its tracks again. While waiting for a bigger shake, I want a hard quake, a hard quake, a hard quake.
Now what I'm going to do next, I haven't done much of before. So I'm going to get some what we call methylated spirits here in the UK, but anybody watching in the States, this is denatured alcohol. I'm going to spray some of it onto a towel, quite a lot of it onto a towel, and then wipe it over the surface. Which is going to help finish off the blending, and it's taking a little bit of the colour off the surface. And this helps ensure that we get a nice even blend before we put the oil on. So I'm going to use the same oil as we did before. And the oil sinks into the wood, enriches the figure and also the colour as well. 2 or 3 coats of this on, about 20 minutes in between, and then we'll be ready to come back to it tomorrow to finish it off. Well, it's a couple of days later and the oil has gone off. I had to leave it a little bit longer than usual because it's a little bit damp and cold in the workshop, but the oil has gone off and it feels really nice. Now I can put on a coat or 2 of sanding sealer. Now when you put sanding sealer on, it's really important that you get a smoother finish on the surface as possible. So you might need to apply more than 1 coat in order for the softer areas of the wood to absorb enough to create a smooth surface on the top of the wood, if that makes sense. It does to me at least. So a couple of minutes later it's dried off and I'm just going to denib the surface before putting on the next coat. So now the sealer's dry, I'm just going to burnish that. It's not really burnishing, it's just using some shavings to denib the sealer. Front and back, being careful of my fingers on the chuck. And that gives us a really nice base to put our finish on. Now I'm going to use a little bit of my high gloss wax and I'm going to apply it with the lathe stationery to start with, making sure I get a nice even coating everywhere. This is just one of the methods I use to apply this wax. There are 3 or 4 different methods I use quite regularly. Rubbing it in almost like you do when you're polishing parade boots. And I'll do the back in a minute. Spin up the lathe and then we can give that a light buffing. That's coming up rather nicely. That's ready for its second coat. So I'll put another coat on here. There. That's come up really nicely. I'm pleased with that. Now I couldn't complete the project like I wanted to yesterday. I got called away. So I'm back in the workshop today to turn the base of the piece. And I've got a block of 4-inch oak here. And I want to have a sort of a fairly classic sort of shape to it. And where I've got the tenon on the bottom of the bowl, I'm going to cut a recess in the top for it to fit in nicely. And then just get all a bit arty with the rest of it. Right, so I need a 29mm radius recess in the top. Whoops, a daisy. Now that fits, I'm happy with that, and now I can start shaping the base. Yep, that's okay, I'm happy with that. Now I can sand it down, and then I think I'll probably do it black. Okay, right, the sanding's done, it's gone down to 400, and now I'm going to just colour it black. I'll put a couple of coats of colour on. Right, single coat or a couple of coats of sanding sealer next. Let that dry off, and then just like I did a little while ago with the candelabra base, I'm going to put some black wax onto it just to fill the grain up a touch. And then a little bit of the gloss to finish it off with. I'll do this with the lathe spinning just to make a change. Lovely, and then the last thing to do for this stage at least is part it off. So there's the base. I've just finished and coloured the bottom black, and for those of you who are eagle-eyed enough, over there on the corner of the workbench is the one that broke a couple of days ago. So now all I've got to do is glue the bowl into position, and then we'll be all done. And here's the piece all finished. As usual, I'm really pleased with how it has turned out. The bottom was a little bit of a challenge getting into the teeny tiny little detail down there in the centre, but it came out an absolute treat. It was sanded down to 400 and then coloured black with a black embellishing wax rubbed into the grain, and the top was from a 10 by 3 inch blank of rippled Sycamore, coloured and then finished with high gloss wax up to a near mirror finish. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed this project. Please do like, share and subscribe, and down here are a couple of videos I think you may find of interest. But for now, thank you very much indeed for watching. Bye for now.